Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 770. So this was a viewer challenge game. Tobias started off with e4. I played c5, and he goes d4, introducing the Smith-Morra gambit. So I think he's a tactical player. Anyway, I take the pawn. You might as well take it. You don't have to decline the gambit right away. You can wait until he plays c3. And now for sure you know this is a gambit on offering. And there's a couple ways to decline. G6, D takes C3, D5, Knight F6. Oh, I'm surprised it's not showing up here. Anyway, the two ways to decline the gambit are D5. I mean, they are on the list, D5 and Knight to F6. The idea is both of these moves go after the E-pawn. I mean, I'm just surprised that those moves aren't more popular in this particular database. And the thing about attacking the e-pawn is that the c-pawn is in the way of the knight coming out to c3. So you're kind of attacking that pawn when it doesn't have a natural defense, so kind of pushing it forward. So my choice is knight to f6. He goes e5, and I go knight d5. So the reason I choose this way is because you can also play this line against the Alpine Sicilian. So if you learn this line once, then you have it. It's a good line to use against a couple of different openings. Let's see. So he goes knight f3. It's the main move, and I go d6. Apparently d6 is not the main move here. Knight c6 is, which I think I usually develop the knight first. But nothing. I mean, we get into slightly unusual territory, and then we wander back into the main line in these few moves. But I looked at it with a chess engine, and nothing really badly went wrong here. He plays bishop c4. And I dropped the knight back to b6. You can play e6 in a lot of these positions, and this is one of them. It's kind of a funny looking move because you think after bishop takes knight, pawn takes bishop, you've got a triple d-pawn. But it's really not going to stay that way. White is going to take the foremost d-pawn, and then the pawn on d6 is going to get traded for the pawn on e5 most likely. So the tripled or doubled pawns don't last. They usually get traded off. So that's an okay way to play too, but knight b6 is fine. He drops his bishop back to b3. Now I develop another knight, and you can see that the numbers have gone up. So we've transposed back into a main line. And notice it is the idea here to just leave this tension, but eventually to resolve it. So this is the point where pawn takes, and then d takes e5 is the main move. Cancel that. E takes d6. Yeah, okay, I was playing c takes d4. E takes d6 is what he played, so he resolved the tension this way, and I took back with the queen. And so he played that move before I had a chance to move my d-pawn forward. He went ahead and castled here, and now I played e6. So this is where, I looked at a couple of other lines here. Yeah, it's funny, bishop e6, that the top choice here is not a move that I would have thought of, but apparently it's okay. Let's first of all, I mentioned during the game, bishop g4 is not good here. Thing is, the bishop is undefended on this square, and white has the sacrifice on f7, a very typical tactic. The knight is defended by the bishop, and my king is in check, and after I move his queen is going to take my bishop. My bishop is not defended, his knight is. So this is just good for white. So you can't play bishop g4. You can play, I think, bishop to f5 in this position, but bishop e6 is something I really didn't think of. But since it's the main move, let's take a brief look at it. And the main response is knight a3. He can also take right away, but that kind of leads to a queen trade. Let's see. In fact, this leads to a queen trade as well, d takes c3, unless he avoids it with queen e2. And if he avoids the queen trade, it seems like black actually comes out of this a little better. So let's see. He can throw in knight b5 to harass the queen. The queen goes back to b8, kind of a funny square, but sort of holding everything together. He takes b3 and e5. And the chess engine actually gives black a slight edge in this position. I guess, well, he's going to take this pawn, but, well, I've got this center pawn supported by the queen and the knight. So I've got a little more space in the center. So slight edge to black here, and if you play the other way, with the bishop takes e6 line, or after knight a3, d takes c3, trading queens. Seems like those positions are about equal. So looks like bishop e6 is actually an equalizing move there. Anyway, so I played e6, and I think after this, black is a little bit better. It goes c takes d4. I mean, white is a little better is what I meant to say. It's the isolated queen's pawn, but white has all the advantages of the isolated queen's pawn, which is he's got easy development for his pieces and open lines with which to attack. And, well, I was just happy to survive the opening at this point. Let's see, he goes knight c3, and I castle. So, yeah, a couple of developing moves. And you can see that the development is about even. And the biggest problem that black has is that my position is somewhat cramped. It's a little low on space, and this light-squared bishop has trouble finding a home. Let's see, he goes bishop e3 here, shoring up a center pawn and getting last piece, minor piece off the back rank. I go knight b4. I'm thinking of trying to get a piece onto the d5 square and just hold it there. Let's see, he goes knight to e4. I drop my queen back to d8. He plays rook to c1. I go knight 4 to d5, so I finally get my knight to that square. He goes queen d3. I go h6. There was a real danger of him dropping a knight in on this square, and I couldn't trade them all off, and the knight on that square threatens checkmate. So had to deal with that somehow. So h6 to keep a knight off there. He goes rook fd1, bishop d7. I'm going through these moves kind of quickly. He had improvements along here, but he gets to a good position anyway. So let's, starting with knight e5. This was a good move, and the chess engine had been calling out for knight e5 for a while. So this, white has got a substantial edge here. And after, cancel that, after rook c8, which was a move I played in the game, he can actually probably get a winning edge here. He kind of let me off the hook with the next move. He played knight c4, bringing this knight back, and allowed me to trade it off. In general, with the when you have the isolated queen's pawn here, you want to keep the minor pieces on and make things as complicated as possible. And knight to c5. Well, I mean, this will allow some trades too, but this is just a good move, and I think white would probably go on to win the game from this point. It's complicated, so there's no guarantee, but just to show some of the ideas in this position, like I would be very tempted to play this move bishop c6. This would fit in with my plan of shoring up the point on d5 and also get my bishop out of hock. He wasn't actually threatening to take it, I guess, but he had two pieces attacking it, and it was starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable there. There might have been some tactic based around that. But if you play bishop c6, white can actually sacrifice on h6. All of my pieces are on the wrong side of the board, and white's pretty well set up for a kingside attack. This rook can't get in. I was just wondering if he can get a rook lift. But anyway, at least the queen and the knight are well set up here for the kingside attack, and maybe this rook, well, once the queen gets out of the way, I guess this rook can come up and over as well. Anyway, this is a winning attack for white there. So that's why bishop c6 can't really be played. And if I try to take some pieces off, let's see, like bishop takes c5, that was another thing I thought of. He just takes back with the pawn, and this knight has no squares and has to go all the way back to a8. So that can't be right. So the chess engine gives knight takes e3 as the best try. Queen takes e3, and but once again you have to be very careful. If you play a careless move like bishop to c5, there's a famous sacrifice on e6. After I take back, the bishop takes with check, picking up the rook, so he gets 2 pawns and a rook for the 2 minor pieces. That's good. Let's see, so knight takes e3, queen takes e3, and bishop to c5. Yeah, bishop takes c5. I have to take this guy anyway here, and knight d5. And he can win a pawn here at least. So in all lines, it looks like after knight to c5. It looks like white is winning. So that was the big chance. He played knight c4, and this kind of lets me off the hook. So I take the knight, which is the right thing to do, and he takes back, and then I go bishop to c6. So that's the move I've been wanting to play. I put the bishop on a good diagonal. I continue to support my blockade of the center, and you know, from this point on, black is doing okay at least. Let's see, I play a5 to prevent him from pushing his pawns forward here. He goes bishop back to a2, so tucking the bishop away from any tactics on the c file. Go queen to d7, goes knight to c5, kicking my queen, and I took with the bishop. I didn't really want to move the queen again, although the chess engine says the best moves are queen d6 or queen c7. I mean, well, after queen d6, he can just put the knight back to e4 and repeat moves, so it didn't seem like I was making any progress. And queen c7 seems a little iffy, just putting the queen on the c file here. But opposite the rook seems dubious somehow. But anyway, that's the chess engine's preference. So, and keeping some side edge to black, actually. So I played this, bishop takes, he takes. And this is probably about even once again. Let's see, he went... oh, it's my turn. I go queen to e7, getting away from the d file, unpinning the knight, and he goes bishop to d4. Let's see. He could have played bishop takes d5. Yeah, this I think this is okay. Is there a problem with bishop to d4? Oh yeah. There's actually a tactic here that I missed. So bishop d4 is a slight mistake. Bishop d5 is a normal way to continue, but this would be nothing for white. So you know, it's understandable. White doesn't want to really play that. But bishop d4 does allow a tactic, which is the move knight to f4. So hey, pretty cute idea. Hit the queen and hit the pawn on g2. Too bad I missed that. Anyway, I played rook fd8. I was just happy to get my pieces organized finally. So I get that move in. He goes queen g3. So ganging up on my g-pawn here, threatening mate. So I defend. He goes bishop to e5. And he's got a good square here for the bishop. That's potentially a problem. So I did something active here. I played knight h5, hitting the queen right away. Queen ran off to c3, lining up with the bishop. Then I brought my queen out to g5 with a counter threat on his king. So finally making use of my good bishop over here. So he blocks with his bishop, and I traded off. I could have played knight to f4. So I somehow had a blind spot about this knight f4 move. His bishop is pinned. His bishop can't take it because the mate threat pins the bishop. And well, how can he defend? How can he defend his g-pawn? Yeah, I think that just picks up a pawn there. Although it's not as simple as that. It's not a clear-cut win at that point. It's a complicated game where I'd have some edge maybe. Let's see. He goes bishop g3. I traded off the bishop. I have a slight edge in this position too, oddly enough. And right here, there's a tactic. So I'll give you guys a chance to spot the tactic. What can black play here? Okay, pause the video if you want some time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. The answer is queen takes c5. Yeah, it's one of those back row tactics. He's threatening to, if he takes my queen, I'll just take his, I will just take his rook. And checkmate him. But I'm wondering about this. What if he plays queen? Rook takes here. I just thought of this move. I mean, he's clearing that with the check. I take. Oh, he still can't take the queen. He still can't take the queen because I just play my rook here with check. So anyway, I can snag a pawn. So that's the tactic. Queen takes c5. Anyway, I traded queens here. He took back with the h-pawn. Really didn't spot that tactic at all. I traded rooks. I did spot that this pawn was a bit loose, and I was trying to remove one of the defenders of it by this trade, but I could not figure at this point how to exploit that loose pawn on c5. So I just brought my king over to the queen side, he's got a queenside majority for the endgame, so, and they're pretty far advanced, so I need to get my king over there to defend. Let's see, he goes b4, take, he takes, I go king e7, he goes bishop to c4, so threatening to mobilize these pawns. The chess engine actually still likes black a little bit here, but I have to play the move rook to a8, which is, if I were continuing in a fighting mood here, that's a good fighting move. There's a lot of squares along this, along the A file where the rook can attack things from the side. For example, rook here would attack the pawn and the bishop. Of course, it's white's turn, and white would probably push the b pawn forward, drive my bishop back. But still, there's opportunities for me to counterattack with my bishop. I mean, with my rook. So, anyways, the chess engine rates that as a slight edge to black. I went for the trade here and just headed for an even endgame. An endgame that I was hoping to hold, and it was going to be simpler. With the rooks off, my king can come over to the queen side. Let's see, he played king f1, and I went king e7. I don't know why I didn't go king f7. I wanted to, at first I was thinking king straight up, and then I saw that he could hit my bishop and maybe force it to an awkward square, so I went here. But logically, I should have gone to the c7 square. Anyway, he goes f3, kicking my bishop. Oh no, he goes f3, blunting my bishop. Let's see, I go e5. I'm getting all my pawns. Oh, that's why I went here. I wanted to get all my pawns onto dark squares. That was the strategy for this endgame. He went to d3. I go here. So I've succeeded. And then he brings his king in. I go bishop d5. He goes king e3. King d7. Let's see, he went bishop b5 check. And I went king to c7, and at this point it's a draw. I've kind of achieved the ideal case here. Let's see, king e3, king d7, bishop b5, king c7. Yeah, it's a draw at that point. Let's see, instead he could have played bishop to, yeah, he could have played b5 here, and this still keeps a slight edge to white. So this is an alternative to the bishop b5 check. So at this point, it's just a draw because I get to this square. So as long as my king is on a dark square and his bishop is on a light square and all my pawns are on dark squares, there's really no way he can make progress with the passed pawn here. He can create a passed pawn, but there's no way he can make progress as long as my king can blockade on a dark square. And the only other thing I have to worry about is making sure his king can't penetrate into the position. If his king could wander over here and start gobbling up my pawns, then that would be a problem. So I use my bishop to keep the king side closed over here so his king can't get in, and I use my king to blockade the pawns, and I don't trade the bishop. I have to keep the bishop on so that I have the ability to keep his king out, and also so I can't get zugzwang. I always have moves for the bishop. So we can just go forward. I did push the pawn forward to liquidate it and simplify it a little bit. But like I said, we have this ideal situation where I've got my king in front of the pawn on a dark square, so he can't harass my king. And I use my bishop to keep his king from penetrating. And at this point, we agreed to a draw. Anyway, pretty interesting game, some nice tactics and chances for both sides. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon.